After all this time, these cases are closed. Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 historical mysteries that have been solved. For this list, we're looking at some decades or even centuries-old questions that have finally been answered. If you like what you're hearing, be sure to check out the full song at the link below. Number 10. The fate of the Franklin expedition. Captain Sir John Franklin's Arctic exploration expedition was lost after leaving England in 1845.
Franklin was searching for a shortcut from Europe to Asia through the Northwest Passage. His ships were caught in the crushing Arctic ice and abandoned off King William Island.
Over the years, many other ships set out to see if they could find out what happened to the doomed crew.
The top part of a human skull, and I think it's one of Franklin's men, like it's related to Franklin's men. Some part of the skull is broken, but just the top part.
While some clues were found, including grave sites of some of the men who had been aboard, it was only at the end of the 20th century that we began to get answers about what had caused Franklin and his team so much trouble. Unfortunately, we discovered that many of the crew members did not die quickly, but rather succumbed to diseases like scurvy and even lead poisoning after becoming icebound. And sadly, the rumors of cannibalism were also proved to be true.
The previous actions of the British crew had been erratic, even dangerous. After all, they had been eating each other.
Number 9. Mysterious notes in the Odyssey. Homer's epic Greek poem, The Odyssey, has become known as one of the most important pieces in the history of literature. While there are many things that we still don't know about the story's creation, an extra layer of mystery was added when a copy was found with unintelligible notes in the margin. The copy belonged to the University of Chicago Library and was a Venetian edition from 1504. The library created a contest to see if anyone could crack the code, and Italian computer engineer Daniele Maitili figured it out with help from colleague Giulia Cetta. Turns out the notes were written in a French shorthand and dated from the 19th century. Number 8. King Richard III's death. While his legacy has lived on through Shakespeare, King Richard III of England was the final English king to perish in battle. In fact, his death during the Battle of Bosworth Field is often used to mark the end of the Middle Ages.
It was here in the Midlands, on the battlefield at Bosworth during the War of the Roses, that he fell. The hunchback so-called villain king was cut down on the pointy end of his successor's sword.
But his remains were lost, and only uncovered in 2012 during an archaeological excavation of Leicester.
The position of the spine in the grave was interesting. There was a very noticeable curve in it, and that's not something that can occur just by accident. That's not something that can happen just by squashing the skeleton into the grave.
The following year, the body was identified as belonging to Richard III.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is the academic conclusion of the University of Leicester that beyond reasonable doubt, the individual exhumed at Greyfriars in September 2012 is indeed Richard III, the last Plantagenet King of England.
He had suffered 11 wounds, most of which were on his skull, which suggests that he lost his helmet in battle, leading to his demise. Number 7. The Sailing Stones. Known as sailing stones or moving rocks, observers have long noticed the enigmatic phenomenon of these objects that seemingly move on their own, leaving trails in their wake. The most famous example is found at Racetrack Playa in California's Death Valley National Park. Many experiments have been undertaken in an attempt to understand how these large objects move, and we now seem to have an answer.
When ice breakup takes place, when the ice begins to melt just enough under the light breezes, that big ice sheets drive the rocks in front of them and just plow them along the bottom of this shallow pond.
On cold nights, thin sheets of ice develop under them and then float, and are able to be moved by the wind, which propels the rocks as fast as 5 meters per minute.
Rocks move through a combination of a shallow pond, ice, light breezes, and sun to set them in motion.
Number 6. The face on Mars. Between the Arandis crater and the Bamberg crater in the Cydonia region of Mars, spacecraft Viking 1 captured an image in 1976 that has fueled speculation for decades. That's because it looked, for all intents and purposes, like there was a face on the red planet. While people wanted to use this as evidence of an alien civilization, the actual explanation is a banal one.
Yikes.
I'm not going to have that thing in my house.
Scientists have agreed that the face is essentially an optical illusion, and that it's only present based on the angle from which you view it and how well lit it is. Number 5. The location of the USS Indianapolis. The sinking of the USS Indianapolis is among the greatest tragedies that the American Navy has ever experienced. Torpedoed by a Japanese submarine in 1945 during a mission to deliver parts of the nuclear weapon Little Boy, there were only 316 survivors from a crew of 1,195.
And I looked back at that time and she was up on her bow, going down.
In 12 minutes, the ship was gone.
The wreck remained unfound, despite several expeditions to locate it. But in 2016, new information was revealed that gave us a better clue of where it might be. And in 2017, a team funded by Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen finally found the well-preserved remains of the ship.
New images both haunting and revealing.
That's an unbelievable amount of damage from that torpedo.
Show the devastation caused by 2 Japanese torpedoes that hammered the USS Indianapolis on July 30th, 1945, while en route to the Philippines.
Number 4. How the pyramids were built. The Egyptian pyramids are one of Earth's most widely recognizable landmarks.
Many secrets about these magnificent structures remain. Built to withstand eternity, they seem in no hurry to reveal them.
But for many years, people wondered how they were possibly built without modern technology. Was it aliens? Well, probably not. It had already been known that the Egyptians likely used wooden sleds to drag large objects across the sand, but researchers at the University of Amsterdam added a probable solution to make this even easier. They established that by wetting sand, only slightly, it would create the perfect amount of friction to carry very heavy objects easily.
Wetting it with the right amount of water makes it remarkably slick. A team of 10 workers can easily pull a 1-ton sled. But people always seem to forget that Egyptians had animals, like donkeys and cattle around to help too.
Another ancient Egyptian mystery that has a more clear-cut answer is the hieroglyphs that seemingly depict modern helicopters. Turns out these are a product of the stone being reused for more than one image. Number 3. What caused the Tunguska event? In a remote area of Russia in 1908, a massive explosion took place that flattened tens of millions of trees and produced an estimated 185 times more energy than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima.
Millions of pine trees, larches and birches are destroyed by the pressure wave and the fires. A shockwave circles the world, leaving its mark on seismographs everywhere. But no one can understand where it has come from.
It inevitably left many wondering what had caused it. For decades, people have speculated that it might have been an asteroid, a comet, a clash of matter and antimatter, or even an alien spaceship landing.
The night sky was illuminated for weeks after, and people were able to read their newspapers in the middle of the night from London to Asia.
But in 2013, it was essentially confirmed that it was in fact a meteor, when a team from the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine analyzed rock samples of meteoric origin from the site.
Researchers studied microscopic fragments of decayed vegetation dating back to the time of the event and discovered mineral combinations perfectly consistent with other meteorite impact sites, like the 50,000-year-old meteor crater in Arizona.
Number 2. The Bermuda Triangle. While some of the other mysteries on our list may not be commonly known to the general public, nearly everyone's heard of the Bermuda Triangle. For many years, people have wondered about the evils at work here that seemingly make boats sink and planes fall from the sky.
Ships that have shown up absolutely empty, no sign of any struggle, and yet the crew has just vanished.
But the explanation is simple and unexciting. While some may imagine the triangle as a small and specific area, it's actually a huge and not well-defined region that is heavily trafficked by sea and by air.
Bermuda is surrounded by a network of reef, like stunning reef. They come right to the surface. And when ships encounter those, they literally break them apart. If you go back in time to your old wooden ships and stuff like that, those ships had no chance.
In fact, your cruise ship may have sailed right through it without you noticing. Yes, plenty of accidents have occurred there, but they largely have logical explanations. These give me hope that we'll solve all the world's mysteries eventually. Whether we'll be around to learn those answers is another story. Oh well. Anyway, we have one more very famous enigma to decipher, so let's look at some honorable mentions and then we'll see the top historical mystery that has been solved. The Starchild Skull likely belonged to a child who died of congenital hydrocephalus.
During all my years of researching UFOs, the one artifact that keeps coming up is the Starchild Skull. I've never held the Starchild Skull in my hand, but I know that it was found in the 1930s in a cave in northern Mexico by a teenage girl.
Blood falls. The red color comes from iron oxides.
Blood falls is a bit of an obsession for a lot of people. I mean, there's nothing else like this on Earth.
Cambyses II's Lost Army. Archaeological evidence of the Army's existence has been found.
No trace of the soldiers has ever been found, until now. After 13 years of research and 5 expeditions to the desert, 2 top Italian archaeologists claim to have found the first evidence for the Lost Army of Cambyses.
Easter Island heads. They actually have torsos buried underground. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Anastasia's escape. In 1918, the Russian Imperial Romanov family was executed by communist revolutionaries. But for years, rumors persisted that Tsar Nicholas II's youngest daughter, Anastasia, somehow survived and escaped.
So whether a sympathetic guard had rescued one of them, it's not beyond the realms of possibility.
It didn't help that several women throughout history have impersonated the supposedly missing princess.
The genetic testing proved beyond all reasonable doubt that Anna Anderson was not Anastasia Romanov.
The whole thing was fabricated.
Whoever she was, she certainly wasn't a member of the Russian royal family.
These speculations were fueled when the Romanovs' grave was found in 1991 and 2 bodies were seemingly missing. But by 2007, another gravesite had been found nearby, and DNA evidence conclusively proved that all members of the family are accounted for. It's a sad ending to the tale for those who prefer to hold out hope of her survival.
But the DNA evidence makes it clear that's what really happened. On the night when Russia's longest-lived dynasty came to its abrupt and bloody end.
Do you agree with our picks? Let us know in the comments. And hey, if you're a fan of the song playing right now, be sure to check out the music video for it right here.